What if I told you that after you hit $100,000, you could earn the equivalent of a second income without lifting a finger? At a modest 10% return, that's $10,000 a year working for you, not from you. But here's the brutal truth. Getting to that first $100,000 is the hardest milestone you'll ever face. In the beginning, your progress comes more from the money you put in than from compounding. That's why the first 100,000 feels impossibly slow until you fix the biggest factors holding you back. And one of them quietly drains your progress before you even notice it. You'll get 5 specific moves in order that remove the common blockers most people hit early on. These aren't generic budgeting tips or complex investment strategies. These are the systematic moves that separate people who build wealth from those who struggle for decades without meaningful progress. The difference between someone who reaches $100,000 and someone who doesn't isn't income level, investment, skill, or luck. It's understanding which moves create the biggest mathematical impact and executing them in the right sequence. What I'm about to reveal shows why most people never reach their first major financial milestone and exactly how to avoid their mistakes. Move 1. Kill bad debt first. Think of bad debt as the single biggest obstacle you need to clear before your money can start working for you. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in it. No matter how much you add, it never fills up. That's exactly what's happening when you're building savings or investing while carrying high interest debt. Every bit of progress gets undercut by interest charges, pulling money out faster than you can put it in. Bad debt isn't just any loan. It's the kind that strips value instead of building it. Credit cards, payday loans, personal loans with steep rates. These debts don't help you grow assets. They funnel your income straight into someone else's bank account. Low-rate student loans or a 30-year fixed mortgage are usually manageable, but high-rate consumer debt is financial quicksand. The longer you stay in it, the harder it becomes to climb out. Here's why this is such a problem. Imagine you're investing in something earning 8% a year, which sounds good on paper, but at the same time, you're paying 20% interest on a credit card balance. That's a losing equation. The gains you're making are smaller than the losses you're taking. And when the gap is that big, you fall behind even if you're disciplined about investing. Take Laura as an example. She puts $200 a month into a mutual fund, but she's also carrying $5,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest. That's roughly $1,000 a year in interest charges. Her investments earn about $192 in that first year, but the debt costs her 5 times that amount, wiping out her gains and leaving her further in the red. You can't outinvest this kind of mathematics. Until the high interest balance is gone, compounding is working against you. That's the other piece many people underestimate. Compounding in reverse. When you invest, your gains generate more gains, accelerating over time. With debt, interest piles onto your balance, increasing the total owed and creating even more interest charges the next month. Left long enough, this cycle can grow your debt faster than you can pay it down, sabotaging every financial step you take. Treat bad debt as holes in the bucket. Until you patch them, nothing you add will stay in. Paying off high interest debt doesn't have the excitement of watching an investment account grow, but it removes a huge drag on your progress. Once those debts are gone, every dollar you save actually stays in your account and can start to multiply. The fastest, most mathematically sound way to do this is the debt avalanche method. List all your debts, sort them by interest rate from highest to lowest, and focus on eliminating the highest rate first while making minimum payments on the rest. This approach minimizes the total interest paid and gets you to debt freedom sooner. As soon as those balances hit zero, you unlock a new advantage: freed up cash flow. If you've been paying $300 a month toward debt, that's $300 you can now direct towards savings, investing, or other wealth building moves. What was once a constant monthly drain becomes a tool to speed you towards your first $100,000. Move 2. Invest consistently instead of saving. With the big leaks plugged, the next trap to avoid is thinking that saving alone will get you to that milestone quickly. What if I told you that setting aside $500 a month could still take more than a decade to reach $100,000? At first glance, the plan sounds simple. Save steadily, watch the balance rise, and eventually hit your goal. But when you run the mathematics, the pace is slower than most expect, especially if that money sits in a basic savings account. Savings accounts protect capital, but often pay rates so low they barely beat inflation. That means your balance might grow in numbers, but its buying power grows much more slowly. Inflation quietly eats away at what your money can actually purchase. So while your account creeps upward, your long-term goals drift further out of reach. Building wealth this way is like trying to fill a swimming pool with a dripping faucet. It works, but painfully slow. Now, compare that to putting your money somewhere it earns a return that compounds. Imagine 2 people each saving $500 a month. One uses a savings account at 0.5% annual interest. After 10 years, that account holds roughly $62,000. The other invests in a portfolio averaging about 10% a year over the long term. 10 years later, that account is closer to $103,000. That's the difference between leaving your money in neutral versus putting it in gear. Historically, the US stock market has delivered average annual returns near 10% over decades, absorbing both bull and bear markets along the way. Investing carries ups and downs. The 10% is a long-run historical average, not a guaranteed short-term return. But over time, the effect of compounding turns even modest returns into significant gains because the growth builds on itself year after year. Think of every dollar you save as a small employee. In a savings account, they sit quietly doing little more than keeping your money in place. Invest them wisely and they start producing, generating returns, which bring in more employees, which then contribute to the work. This growing workforce operates whether you put in extra hours or not. The difference in speed can erase years from your $100,000 timeline. Rely on savings alone at today's rates and you could be waiting well over a decade. Consistent investing at long-term average returns could get you there several years faster. And the sooner you arrive, the more time your money has to stack gains on top of gains. The beauty of compounding is that you don't need huge amounts to see results. Even $100 a month invested instead of parked in a near zero interest account grows far more over the years. Starting earlier gives that growth more time to curve upward, meaning each future milestone requires less from your own pocket. But achieving that acceleration isn't just about deciding to invest. Without a clear target, investing can drift as aimlessly as saving without purpose. Move 3. Set specific monthly targets with clear timelines. The key is to move from a vague intention like save more to a precise, measurable plan that maps exactly how to reach your goal. That shift from wish to roadmap turns occasional progress into consistent achievement. And while knowing the power of compounding shows why investing matters, clarity on the specific numbers will show you exactly how to get from where you are to $100,000. Aiming for a milestone like $100,000 is exciting, but to actually hit it, you need to turn that idea into a concrete plan. It's easy to imagine what it will feel like to see that balance, but without breaking the number into specific, measurable steps, it stays a wish you can push off indefinitely. Translating your target into an exact figure and timeline turns it into something you can track, measure, and act on. Here's why that matters. If you start from zero with a vague approach like, save as much as I can, you'll probably contribute when it's easy and skip it when it's not. That inconsistency drags the process out indefinitely. Set a clear monthly target instead, and you've created a personal scoreboard. You either hit it or you don't, and that visible accountability drives progress. Now, let's put numbers to it. Suppose you aim for $100,000 in just 3 years with a steady 10% annual return on your investments. You'd need to contribute roughly $2,300 per month. That's $27,600 a year going straight into your investments. For most people, that's a significant challenge, but it's also a reality check. A short time frame demands a big monthly commitment. Stretch that same goal to 10 years at a 10% return, and the requirement drops sharply to about $500 per month. The total you contribute out of pocket over the decade is much lower because compounding has more time to work. Starting earlier doesn't just give you more years to reach the goal. It shifts much of the workload from you to your money. Studies show specific, time-bound goals improve follow-through compared with vague aspirations. Saying, I'll invest $500 a month to reach $100,000 in 10 years creates a clear path and focus, which directly shapes your day-to-day financial decisions far better than, I want to save more. If you want to test your own timeline, use an online retirement or savings calculator to plug in your starting amount, monthly contribution, and conservative return estimate. Then adjust the term until the monthly figure feels realistic. Think of it like planning a road trip. You don't just drive towards somewhere. You pick a destination, map the best route, and figure out how long it will take. Without a map, you might waste time and fuel without getting close to where you want it to end up. In financial terms, your plan is the map, and your monthly contribution is the distance you cover each leg of the journey. There's also urgency to consider. Every month you wait raises the monthly number you'll need to hit your target. If you delay a year on that 10-year strategy for $100,000, your contributions would have to climb to make up for lost time. Waiting not only shortens your runway, it forces bigger sacrifices later. Once your dream is translated into numbers with a fixed deadline, the changes you make to reach it feel deliberate. You stop seeing them as random cutbacks and start seeing them as purposeful steps with a defined reward. Choosing not to spend $100 today becomes directly linked to moving one step closer to your goal. And that connection keeps you consistent even when motivation dips. Of course, even the most precise plan can be undermined if the money you set aside never makes it into your investments. Move 4. Control your biggest budget leaks. Everyday spending decisions, especially in major categories like housing and transportation, can drain your momentum without you realizing it. Before your contributions can start building real wealth, you have to make sure they aren't leaking away in the background. Keeping more of what comes in is a foundation for growing what you have, and that starts with controlling the biggest drains on your budget. These aren't the occasional extra coffees or the random splurge. They are the ongoing high-cost commitments that quietly set the ceiling on how much you can save or invest. That's why Control the Leaks, Grow the Snowball begins with looking hard at housing and transportation. Housing and transportation are often where people overextend the most. These aren't just monthly bills. They're long-term decisions that shape your entire financial path. Take housing. Choosing a modest home with a $1,200 monthly mortgage versus stretching for one at $2,000 creates an $800 per month difference. Over 10 years, that adds up to about $96,000 before even counting the higher utilities, maintenance, and furnishing costs that usually come with a larger property. That gap alone could have you fully funded at your $100,000 goal or still years away from it. Transportation can be just as damaging, especially when the full cost isn't considered. This goes beyond sticker price. It's about how much value the vehicle loses and what it costs to run. A new car can lose roughly 20% of its value in the first year and about 60% by year 5. Buy high and replace often, and you're locking yourself into predictable, repeated losses. Add in insurance, fuel, and maintenance, all of which increase with larger, newer, or higher performance vehicles, and the total drain on your finances can be substantial. Think of these big fixed costs as weights you carry while trying to build wealth. You can still make progress, but it takes more effort to go the same distance. Drop the weight by lowering housing or transport expenses, and suddenly you move forward faster without changing your income or working extra hours. A smaller mortgage or rent or reliable used car kept for several years doesn't just cut payments now. It frees up money every month that can go straight into investments where compounding starts working for you. Here's a simple, actionable step. Identify your top 2 money drains right now, often housing and transportation, and commit to one specific action for each. That could be refinancing to lower your payment, downsizing your living space, buying your next car used, or holding on to your current vehicle longer. Start with whichever change frees up the most monthly cash, because that gives you the biggest immediate boost towards your goal. The key is to focus on ongoing fixed costs before chasing every small expense. When you reduce the largest leaks in your budget, you gain flexibility. You're no longer locked into high payments that limit your options or delay your progress over time. That freed up cash flow builds its own momentum, a literal financial snowball that grows because it's not constantly being melted down by unnecessary expenses. And while these decisions may not feel exciting in the short term, their long-term impact is huge. Keeping fixed costs low means you're in control. You can save more, invest more, and adjust faster if your situation changes. That kind of stability speeds up your timeline to $100,000 without relying on risky investments or hoping for windfalls. Once these leaks are under control, you've set the stage for the fastest acceleration possible. Move 5. Focus on increasing income. That's when adding extra income can rapidly shorten your timeline and turn that snowball into something that builds almost effortlessly. While controlling expenses is crucial, there's a limit to how much you can cut, but there's virtually no limit to how much you can earn. That's why the 5th move focuses on the income side of the equation. Increasing your income doesn't just add more dollars to invest each month. It can dramatically compress your timeline to $100,000 in ways that expense cutting alone cannot match. Consider the mathematics. If you're currently saving $500 a month towards your goal, finding ways to earn an extra $500 monthly doubles your contribution rate. Instead of taking 10 years to reach $100,000, you could potentially get there in about 6 years, assuming the same investment returns. But the impact goes beyond just speed. Higher income provides security and flexibility that makes the entire wealth building process more sustainable. When you have multiple income sources, temporary setbacks don't derail your progress. You can maintain your investment schedule even when unexpected expenses arise. There are several approaches to increasing income, and the best one depends on your current situation and skills. Career advancement represents the most straightforward path for many people. This might involve developing new skills that make you more valuable to employers, negotiating raises, or strategically changing jobs for higher compensation. Industry research consistently shows that people who change companies every few years often earn significantly more than those who stay in the same position for extended periods. Side projects and freelancing offer another avenue, especially in today's digital economy. Whether it's consulting in your professional area, starting an online business, or monetizing a hobby or skill, side income can provide the extra dollars needed to accelerate your wealth building. The key is choosing something sustainable that doesn't burn you out or interfere with your primary career. Skill development is crucial regardless of which path you choose. The most valuable skills in today's economy often involve technology, communication, or specialized knowledge that others find difficult to acquire. Investing time in learning these skills can pay dividends for decades. Real estate or business ownership represents more advanced strategies for building wealth, but they require substantial knowledge, time, and often significant capital investment. These aren't appropriate for everyone, especially those just starting their wealth building journey. The practical approach is to start where you are with what you have. If you're employed, focus on becoming more valuable in your current role while exploring opportunities for advancement or higher paying positions. If you have skills or knowledge that others need, consider how to monetize them through part-time work or consulting. Remember, the goal isn't to work yourself into exhaustion. It's to strategically increase your earning capacity in sustainable ways that accelerate your progress toward financial goals. Even an extra $200 a month in income can shorten your timeline to $100,000 by several years, depending on your starting point and investment returns. And once you reach that milestone, the compounding effect of having more money working for you creates even greater acceleration toward your next financial goals. Conclusion: reaching your first $100,000 can feel like the hardest stretch, but it's also the tipping point where progress starts to accelerate. In the beginning, every step takes effort. Yet, once you cross that mark, compounding does more of the work for you. Let me summarize the 5 moves in order. Kill bad debt, invest consistently, set specific monthly targets with clear timelines, control your biggest budget leaks, and focus on increasing income. That's your roadmap in one sentence. These moves work because they address the real mathematical obstacles to building wealth rather than focusing on minor optimizations that don't move the needle significantly. Move 1 eliminates reverse compounding that destroys progress faster than investments can build it. High interest debt at 20% annual rates makes it mathematically impossible to build wealth through investing until those balances disappear completely. Move 2 harnesses the power of compound growth by putting your money in investments that historically return 10% annually rather than savings accounts that barely beat inflation. This single change can cut years off your timeline to $100,000. Move 3 transforms vague intentions into specific, measurable plans with clear deadlines. Someone who commits to investing $500 monthly for 10 years has a roadmap. Someone who wants to save more money has a wish. Move 4 plugs the biggest leaks in your budget by focusing on housing and transportation costs that often represent 60 to 70% of total expenses. An $800 monthly difference in housing costs equals $96,000 over 10 years, nearly your entire goal. Move 5 accelerates everything by increasing the dollars available for investing each month. Extra income not only shortens your timeline, but provides the security and flexibility that make wealth building sustainable long-term. The beauty of this system is that you don't need all 5 moves to see progress. Start with whichever one makes the most sense for your current situation. If you're carrying high interest debt, that's obviously your starting point. If your housing costs consume too much of your income, that might be the biggest opportunity. Here's what separates people who successfully build their first $100,000 from those who struggle for decades without meaningful progress. They understand that wealth building follows predictable mathematics, not wishful thinking. They don't waste time on strategies that sound good but don't create significant numerical impact. They don't try to budget their way to wealth by cutting small expenses while ignoring major cost categories. They don't park money in low-yield savings accounts hoping for the best. Instead, they systematically address the real obstacles in the correct sequence, understanding that some moves must come before others for maximum effectiveness. Your first $100,000 is the foundation for everything that follows. It's the point where compounding begins working meaningfully in your favor, where $10,000 in annual returns start feeling like a part-time job working for you automatically. But reaching that milestone requires more than hoping and saving random amounts when convenient. It requires implementing a systematic approach that addresses the mathematical realities of wealth building. Which of these 5 moves will you start this week? If you want a quick win, stop one high-interest payment tonight, or set up an automatic investment transfer. Every dollar you redirect now keeps working for you tomorrow, building momentum toward that critical first $100,000 milestone. Pick one move and start today, even if it's small. The mathematics work in your favor, but only after you begin implementing the system that makes wealth building inevitable rather than accidental. Remember that individual results vary based on personal circumstances, market conditions, and implementation quality. This represents educational information about wealth building strategies, not personalized financial advice. Always consult qualified financial professionals before making major financial decisions.